Hello, so we're back on a podcast from IPAN, and I have such an honor to be here with Karen Baruch-Feldman, who will tell us about grit. And since I really unfortunately didn't do a lot of research on your work, I would just like to, Karen, just to tell us all about grit. We've heard a lot about grit on this conference, and I think a lot of people really don't know. They hear grit, what's it all about? What are we trying to do? So, and then you also had a great workshop that I apologize with so many going on. I apologize, I missed it yesterday. But just tell us a little bit about grit. What do you do, and how can we help people out there? Include audience that you usually cover, whatever your audience is.
So grit, I'll start with the definition, and my definition is based on Angela Duckworth's work, which is it's passion plus perseverance for long-term goals. So it's feeling passionate about something that's really important to you, and it's also about that ability to bounce back when you have setbacks. So those two combinations make grit. And what I'm interested is in helping teens get gritty. So the way I kind of think about it is, since I'm a cognitive behavioral psychologist, I use thinking and behavior to help and influence teens. And that's actually, I have an upcoming book, which is coming out in July, published by New Harbinger. It's on the gritty guide for teens, and that was my workshop. So it was based a lot on the book that I'm publishing.
I am so sorry I missed it, because I'm actually doing, in a couple of weeks, I'll be doing a mindful parenting workshop. Mm-hmm. And I would love to include, I know some of the folks, they may not be on now, but I know that they are interested in really just helping their kids. And, I call it mindful parenting. I'll be just doing mindfulness, but I would like to include something else. So are there some tools or something the parents can do to help teens?
Right. So I think, first of all, I feel like always I have to say that it always starts with a relationship. So I feel like as parents, by you having that strong relationship and them seeing you also be passionate about things that are important to you, you lead by example. But I think for also in terms of grit is about being passionate. It's about finding what your strength is, finding what you're interested in. And it's really helping kids reframe, I feel like, what failure is. That failure, I love this acronym. FAIL stands for First Attempt in Learning. So instead of failure just feeling like it's the end, it's really helping kids, what we call, have this growth mindset, which is to seeing that they're always changing and they're always growing, as opposed to just being fixed. And if something bad happens, it's a reason to stop. That's kind of how I got interested in this, because I see a lot of times kids who are actually either, some kids are smarter and some kids are more talented, but what I notice is really a great difference, and what is really tied to success are those kids who can kind of pick themselves up and no matter what can kind of be really gritty. And what I'm also interested in is grit in terms of different areas. So some kids might be gritty academically, but they're not so gritty emotionally. Or sometimes they can be gritty with their health, but they're not so gritty socially. And so what I'm sort of interested is for them to learn from their strengths and then take those strengths and apply it to the areas where they want to grow their grit.
That's really wonderful. I was thinking when Angela Duckworth did her talk yesterday, and the question came up, which is, she basically explained like what grit is not, which is really great. And then, we're talking about how we really want kids to be achievers, but achieving is not only what we want them to do, right? We want them to have the good character, we want them to be good people, we want them to...
So I agree. I feel like grit has started, it started in the area of achievement, or in terms of sports, or you see it in business. But for me, because I am a psychologist and I often work with lots of kids who have anxiety, or kids who have anger issues, or kids who have social issues, I do see, and the kids actually describe to me, that they feel that they can become more gritty with that. And what do I mean by that? Being more long-term minded, being able to bounce back in even those domains. So I know that it initially is more defined in a more narrow sense, but I'm kind of interested, based on the work and the pilot work I've done with teens, being able to expand that and helping kids kind of grow in those different areas. And I think one of the things that I think, if you asked me what's something that's important for parents to know, is I like this formula. It's based on one of Angela's research papers, which is that when something's important to you, when you think that your likelihood of success is high and when the costs are low, you will be invested in doing that. So I think as parents, if we see that our kids are struggling with grit, if we can help them figure out how it's important, bring down the cost and help them have little small steps like you spoke about in your workshop, then there'll be a better likelihood of success. And I do help kids kind of sometimes look in terms of their grit strengths, does that formula work, and how can we take that formula and put it to their area of grit growth?
That's really wonderful. So do you, and I don't expect you to, just curious, I know I have some parents, and I think yesterday question came up, kids that have some disability or kids that have autism, and I believe there's not a lot of research in that area, but is there anything that you could recommend that would work for?
I mean, I think the same principles apply. I mean, I work with kids. I work as a school psychologist, and I also work and I have a practice. But I am a big believer that when kids have a disability, sometimes what you need to do is that you have to teach them more explicitly the skills that may come more naturally to us, other kids. So maybe kids who have autism socially, in terms of grit, that might be more challenging. But I do think that the same skills apply. I think you just need to be much more explicit in how you deliver that, and really kind of put out, like, say, this is how maybe you can grow a gritty mindset. This is how you do the behaviors, and make those steps and give children opportunities to practice, and ultimately, like you say, make them into habits. I'm a big believer in making things more into habits so that it's easier for people to do that, because our brains are lazy, and if we can make things into habits, I think it's a much easier than just kind of trying to muscle and have that willpower.
Thank you so much. I was thinking when I was talking to one of them, again, I don't really know much about autism. My wife actually used to work with the kids with autism, but I was thinking what one of the gentlemen said. He was in a couple of my classes, and now he's coming to this parenting, and he said, his daughter has autism, and he said that she is very into the habits. So when she does, it has to be, if she goes there Sunday, 9 o'clock, and they have breakfast, it has to be every Sunday. So maybe this could even help them, if we can help them establish that.
Right.
All of a sudden that they can, they can improve.
So actually using strength, there's actually, and I'm not so good with names, but there's a recent movie about actually a child who has autism who sort of gravitated to Disney characters. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
And In and Out? No?
No, not Inside Out. It's a new movie. It's actually a documentary which partnered with Walt Disney, and they use these Walt Disney characters to kind of help kids kind of with autism be the best that they can be. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like using their strengths. So if the kids who have autism sort of gravitate to these characters, how do you help them through something that maybe is more natural to them, kind of develop those skills? Because again, I think, and that's why we're all here in positive psychology, I think when we can take an emphasis on strength as opposed to just kind of highlighting where people are weak, people are much more receptive to kind of when they stick with their strengths. It goes back to, I guess, what that formula is. If something's important, if something is likely to success, you're going to be more willing to do it. So I think that's kind of reason also why we sort of gravitate to the positive, what's working for us, or our strengths.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much. Is there, I know you said you're working on your new book that's going to come out. When is it going to come out?
It's coming out in July.
In July? What do we have a name?
2017. It's the Grit Guide to Teens. That's the preliminary.
You did say that earlier. I apologize.
It's okay.
Okay, perfect. Anything else you would like to share as a kind of final closing? We're all exhausted.
Right.
We've been here 20 hours a day.
I think I spent, just one last thing is that I did say a lot about mindset. I think that's important. I also think that it's not enough just to have a thinking, you have to have behavior. And I also think it's important to have a community. I know you also talked about that. I feel that when you surround yourself with gritty people, it helps. When you have a cheerleader, and when you are a cheerleader, other people, those are things that actually grow grit. And also, when you do things in that vein, not just for yourself, but you see it as helping other people, that's the real way to kind of grow gritty behavior. So it should really be about purpose, which is often not only about yourself, but a larger world.
I know I did ask you to do the final word, but I think we can just keep talking forever. But you said something that kicked something else in my mind. You said purpose. And I was discussing yesterday with folks from university from Mexico. And by the way, it's really so cool. There's like 60 people here from Mexico, from that university. And there's a story behind. But anyway, they're starting with the kids in high school, and they're discussing purpose. They start with the purpose. I think that's amazing. I haven't really seen much here in the U.S. that we do with purpose, but I'm
Oh.
glad you said that.
Yes, and actually at the university level, there are now a lot of these interventions that are working with helping kids have a sense of purpose. And in very small interventions, they are finding really powerful effects by helping people to connect to their purpose. A lot of that research is coming out of Stanford. So if you are interested, I mean, there is stuff coming
Yes,
on
I am
at the
actually.
university level,
Thank
and
you.
they are finding these really huge effects by helping people to connect to their purpose.
Awesome. So then for all of you, connect with your purpose, help your kids to connect with their purpose. Make sure that we help them become gritty now that you know what grit is all about. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again,
It's a pleasure.
appreciate it. Thanks. Talk
Thanks.
soon. Bye.
Bye.